the sad thing that I didn't understand when I attempted to take my life a number of years ago was that it wasn't going to end the pain. Sure, it would end my pain, and nobody knows what's next. So, for all intents and purposes, for somebody living with suicidal ideation, with the idea that they need to end their life, all they want is the pain to stop. They just need it to stop. And our minds are telling us that the only way that they can logically stop is by ending our lives. What do I mean by the pain doesn't die? I have a mate that took his life a few years ago. And the thing that I've always known about my mate is he was more compassionate than me. He was more caring than me. He was kinder than me. It wasn't a competition, but he just was. He was one of those extraordinary people that just exudes care for the people around him. If he knew how much pain his death has caused, continues to cause, I would bet anything that he would take it back, just because I know him. Now, my son came to me a few years ago and said, "Dad, I know you tried to take your life when I was a kid." I said, "Yeah, mate, I did. Always tried to be open and honest with my family about it." And he said, "Dad, was it my fault?" Now, my kid was 2 when I made my attempt. Might have even been younger than that. At the time, my suicide attempt had nothing to do with him or my wife or my family or the people around me. It was just that the pain was too much. Now, for your teenage child to come up to you and say, "Dad, something that you did when I was 2, is it my fault?" He's living with pain of my suicide attempt. Just an attempt. And I think about what would have happened if I had have succeeded. He feels guilt. He feels anxious. He feels nervous that even attempting to end my life was his fault. Thankfully, I'm here to be able to say to him, "No, mate, of course it wasn't your fault," and explain to him what I was going through at the time, and explain that it would have been the greatest mistake of my life, and I'm so sorry that I've put him through this thought process by my actions. Because as a father, I want to protect my kids. I want to do everything I can to make sure that they don't feel pain. So what I want to do is I want to dive into that today. And I didn't realize that this was such a contentious issue. I said it to somebody the other week and they tore through me like a dose of salt. I would rather my son not be in pain at all. I would rather carry that pain for them. I'm like, okay, all right, I don't get that. So what I want to do is I want to try and look at the arguments for and against about my point of view, because obviously we're always against suicide. Suicide is one of those preventable deaths. May seem inevitable for some people, may seem like their only choice, but it's always preventable as long as we maintain the discussion. And that's what Mark My Words is all about. Let's continue the discussion around suicide. Let's do it. We'll dive in and we'll see what happens. Welcome to Mark My Words. Mark My Words is the story of my journey from a place where I was shattered to where I could live again. All right, so my contention is that the pain that a person suffers before they've attempted to take their life, it doesn't die if they do end their lives. The pain lives on in ways that we can't fathom or understand. In the introduction, I talked about my son coming to me and asking about whether my suicide attempt was his fault. And the more we discussed it, the more pain I realized he was in about this. He'd had sleepless nights thinking about this, wondering if he was at fault somehow, wondering why I would have chosen to leave him. Was he not good enough? Was he not nice enough? Was I not proud enough of him? He didn't understand until we talked about it. My suicide attempt had virtually nothing to do with him. Yes, I felt like I was hurting everybody around me. Yes, I also thought he would be better off without me. I mentioned that to a psychologist at one stage after my suicide attempt, that my family's better off without me. And she made this contention, and even at the time, I kind of went, ugh. But she said, no child is ever better off without their mother and father. A functional, healthy mother-father relationship. No child is better off if they don't have that. I thought about it for a while, thought about it for a long time, thought about it for years. And I was thinking, oh, what about somebody that's in an abusive relationship? And of course, that's not what she's talking about. She's talking about that ideal, having the ideal family, the mother, the father, loving relationship, caring relationship, learning the feminine from the mother, the masculine from the father. No child is better off without that. Took me a long time to understand what that meant. And yes, you're going to go, look, I'm in a lesbian relationship, I'm in a gay relationship. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm talking about two parental figures that can give them understanding of both sides of our personalities. My son would not have been better off if I had have died. I would have left him with guilt and trauma that would have lasted for the rest of his life. Now, because I didn't succeed and, 10, 12, 13 years later, we're able to have this discussion, it's still painful, but at least we're able to have the discussion. Now, I talked about my mate, Dan. Dan, whenever I talk about Daniel, I always use his name. I will not let Daniel be forgotten. I will not let Daniel be a statistic. And I'll try and learn as much as I can and teach as much as I can as I have learned from his example. I know for a fact, absolute fact, that if he knew how much pain his absence has caused, he's got a family that even today is still questioning themselves. Was it our fault? Did we do this to him? Why didn't we understand his pain? They're living with this guilt and this trauma that I know that he as a person would not be able to deal with and would not wish on anyone. But I also know that at the time that he was considering ending his life, he couldn't think about that stuff. He couldn't, in his own mind, go, it's so disconnected for him that he couldn't think of that. All he could focus on was his own pain. Now, I had contemplated suicide many times before I actually I'm not supposed to say that anymore, until I made the attempt. I'm not allowed to say attempt anymore. I do love how many people tell me how I can and cannot talk about my suicide attempt. It's like, oh yeah, we need to talk about it, but don't use these words. Damn it. Who do you think you are? So if I use words that trigger you, I apologize, but this is my story, so I'm going to use them. So I'd considered suicide many, 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 many times before. But the fact of the matter was that my wife was there. I went to sleep beside her, woke up beside her every day. So I had this constant reason to stay. The problem was that the pain got so much that it overrode, I thought, that need, that reminder of just her simple presence. And after my suicide attempt, I was being taken into the hospital and a thought entered my mind. And that was, I didn't actually want to be dead. I just wanted to be at home with my wife. Now, when you have suicidal ideation, that's the thing where your mind just tells you every single minute of every single day that you need to end your life. I never had anything to say back to that. So it's like an argument in my head. A one-sided argument. One side is going, you need to kill yourself, and the other side's going, Okay, I guess you're right. Maybe I do. But in that ambulance, I realized that I had a reason for living. And I had a narrative now in my head that was greater than that narrative of you need to kill yourself. Because it was like, no, I know that's not what I want. I know that that's not what I need. What I need is to be at home with my wife. I don't know if that seems selfish to you. And I hope that every person that is living with suicidal ideation comes up with their own reason, their own narrative to counter that suicidal ideation. That was what it was for me. So, the pain of suicide. I can only reflect on my family, the pain of an attempted suicide. It doesn't just live with me. It lives with my wife, it lives with my kids in ways that I can't even fathom. My extended family, my parents-in-law. What would the trauma have been for them if I had have gone? What would the pain that they be in? What would the pain be like for those that were still left behind? And that's what I'm talking about with the pain of suicide. Doesn't end when your life ends. You just pass it on to the people around you in ways that you can't even imagine. And this is the reason that I want to talk about this today, because we don't talk about this. We look at somebody that's living with suicidal thoughts, suicidal behaviors, and we think we don't want to upset them. We don't want to do anything to trigger them. And that inevitably leads to us doing nothing because it's quote unquote safer. Safer for us, maybe, safer for them. We don't know. But as soon as you start talking to a person about the impact that their suicide will make on your life, it gives them another way to think about it. And of course, you don't go to somebody that's in trauma and I'm going to kill myself, and you go, yeah, just do it. You just because you'll make me feel terrible and my life will suck. Well, that's the wrong time to have that conversation. But if somebody's living with suicidal behavior, they're having a great day, and you can see that they're having a great day, and you can talk to them without re-traumatizing them. And it's easier than you think. It's like, mate, you talked about this suicide thing the other day. I just want you to know, please don't do it. I would be devastated if that was what you chose to do. Now, I know a person that their life, they were basically abandoned by everybody, and it wasn't their fault. Abandoned by everybody, left to their own devices, massively at risk of suicide, multiple suicide attempts. And it wasn't until I started talking to this person about the fact that their suicide would have on me that they came back to me later and said that was one of the hardest things I ever heard, but it was also one of the best, because I then had another narrative in my head. I can't do that because Mark will feel like this. What will this do to Mark as somebody outside my own pain? For the person that is contemplating suicide, you might have listened to this whole thing and gone, nobody cares about me. Nobody will care about me. It's not going to happen. I can tell you that that's not true. There are people that care about you. And how do I know this? I got a message on my Insta or something a couple of months ago, and I didn't know how to respond to it. And the person said, you're wrong, Mark. There is nobody in this world that would give a damn if I was to leave the world today. And the fact of the matter is, I would care. I don't know them. I've never been with them in person, but they've reached out. They've let me know that they're in pain. I now care about them. And I'm a complete stranger. So what if they were to share that pain with people that were closer to them? What if they went and found a doctor that didn't just treat them like a number, but as somebody that was a living human being with potential and hope, and started to talk to them like that? Maybe the people around you, some of the ones that are most dominant, they don't seem to care. But I promise you they do. And if they could understand what you're going through, and you might be the kind of person that feels like there is nobody around you. And that's why I mentioned the doctor. Look, it doesn't have to be somebody that's right next to you. Some people won't talk to their parents about this, or their children, or their really good mates, but maybe the next door neighbor, maybe the minister up the street, maybe the imam up the street, maybe the local counselor. As soon as you start letting people know what pain you're in, you'll be stunned to find how many people will come around you, especially if they know that you want help. I promise you that there's people that care about you. And I know I'm going to get a message from somebody saying, nobody cares about me, Mark. I promise you that there are people out there that do care. And it's the most surprising people. We went to a funeral of a young man who ended his life about 2 years ago. And we were neighbours with them. We were next door neighbours for a good 10 or 12 years. Never been inside their house. Always just have nice conversations with them over the fence, talk to them. They got a new car. We got into this. But they were just neighbours. We moved away, and then we found out that this young man had ended his life. Well, we showed up at the funeral, and we made a beeline to his mum. And we just said, look, your son was precious, and we are so sorry that you've lost him. If there's anything that we can do, please let us know. There was nothing we could do, but just being there. She broke into tears when she saw my wife. She's like, I can't believe you are here. I can't believe you cared enough about my son that you would show up to say goodbye to him. It is the weirdest, strangest people that love you and care for you that you could possibly never imagine. Now, if we had been next door neighbours and I had found out he was in trouble, I would have tried to move the world to help him. I'd have done anything for this kid. And he's virtually a stranger to us. When you let people know that you're struggling, when you let people know that you're in pain, and you don't just listen to the first or second voice, because yes, they're negatives. I've told people, and I've regretted it from the moment the words left my mouth. They've given me a response that I've just gone, how dare you? I just want to punch you. I hate you. And it's affected my mental health. And I know that that's going to happen. But if you can find people that you can trust, be it a doctor, be it a psychologist, be it a next door neighbor, be it a friend, be it a cop, be it whoever, and let them know that you're in pain and that you need help, you'll start to find that help will come. You see, a ship that has its anchor down will never go anywhere. If you're in a ship and the anchor's still on the ocean floor, you're like, we're going to go to this place, and you don't pull up the anchor, nothing can ever happen. But if you pull up that anchor, that insecurity, that anger, that mistrust, whatever it is that's holding you in place, as soon as you let that go, start to say, I'm prepared to move. I just need help. Then you'll start to drift, and there may be a breeze will come up. There may be somebody will find out what's going on. They'll help you turn the engines on. They'll give you a direction. If you stay still, you won't get anywhere ever. But if you let go of those brakes, if you let go of that anchor, and you allow yourself to start asking for help, letting people around you know, I am really struggling, you'll be amazed at where that help will come from. Hey, I want to thank you for checking out the podcast today. I want to thank all our new subscribers. You've really just it's tickled my little cotton stockings. It's been, what, it's 7 people? I told somebody that the other day. They said, oh, you got 7 new listeners, whoop-de-doo. And it's like, no, I got 7 more people that this message has meant something to, because that's what I do it for. You'll notice I don't do endorsements. I don't do ads. I don't do any of that stuff. I just want to help people. And I want this message to help people. And I want to thank you for being part of that. Many ways that you can support us. We sell shirts. You can support us on Patreon. You can just like, share, or subscribe, or all three. I appreciate you. I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Mark My Words. I'd like to thank my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And I can't forget the band Adelaide, who allows us to use their song as our theme.